Hey there, everybody. Thanks for joining me for another one-man review. Today I'm going to be doing just like a quick flip through and explanation of a series. This is by the writer Rodolphe and the artist Leo. Me and Tori went on a trip to Tennessee and saw a big box used stuff store off the side of the road. Just one of these huge two-story box buildings that's just packed full of used books and comics and all kinds of stuff. And I found a whole bunch of these books by Leo there. I've read one or two of Leo's things in a digital format. They're usually like sci-fi stuff where he's building this big sci-fi world, which I got a bunch of those books as well. And then I picked this up, just getting everything that he had. Pretty much was able to then come home and order a few things on Amazon and get what I think is a complete set of this artist's work. I remember thinking his sci-fi stuff was compelling, even though the art's a little bit stiff for me. His world building is really compelling to me, so I wanted to get the full picture. I'm probably going to be dipping into each one of the series separately. They're each 4 or 5 volumes long. This piece here, Kenya, that's written with Rodolphe, is a different world than the one I was familiar with, this sci-fi one that he has. But it's pretty interesting. I would say this is like a blockbuster movie type of comic. There's not a lot of really original ideas. There's not a lot of great character development in it. I'm not a huge fan of the writing throughout. Everyone's pretty cardboard cutout. Like you have this character, John Remington, who's like the abusive American misogynist kind of machismo guy. He's out there shooting animals for his trophies. There's the sexy ladies and the interpersonal conflicts and stuff. You get this character. This is the main character here. She's basically a spy for the UK, for Britain, and she's coming over and posing as a school teacher because these different countries have been getting word of some abnormal activity out in the savannah in Kenya. You can see here they find this thing that's bigger than a giraffe, so they're finding dinosaurs. There's suggestions throughout that there's like UFO activity as well. You have some other spy characters. She has like her two colleagues at the school she's teaching at. One is a Russian spy, and then you have this other guy there that's not. You have a crazy guy that lives out in the middle of the desert in his hotel, like house thing that he's got, his big palatial house. Just a lot of like political things like that I think are pretty typical of European comics, where it's like people just sitting around and talking about this agency needs this to happen to do this, and it feels a little bit like high school to me in terms of who said what and who did this, and there's a lot of exposition in the talk, but throughout it's a fun story. There's some fun ideas. I enjoy Leo's art, but again, it's like middling enjoyment. Like it's really detailed. He's never like sparing on the background. He's fully rendering all those characters. He draws fairly realistically. He draws cool monsters and stuff like that. Always cool, fun concepts, but it's always a bit stiff as well. The best I can say is it reminds me, especially the way he draws faces and stuff, it reminds me of Steve Dillon. How Steve Dillon was someone who could always get the exact like perfect shot, but his drawing was never like super impressive. It just told the story and felt grounded and realistic. I think part of that is the fact that Leo never really uses, except on the monsters, there's not a lot of hatching. Everything's being done by the color, but it's also in the poses. His poses are just stiff. There's not a lot of cartooning going on, but you still get this beautiful world built out of it. So it has a bit of like the Moebius imagination to it, and the like clean line filled in with flat colors. I mean, not here, not totally flat, but it's definitely more European in vibe as well. But it has this strong, yeah, I kept coming back to like Steve Dillon trying to do Moebius and then putting in a little, like because of that, putting in a little more work. So it all adds up to like a really professional, compelling package, and it's fun to read. But in the end, I think it's a bit like, at least the story's unsatisfying, and the art's never like spectacular enough. Like, this is about as spectacle as you get, is this big box opening up and letting out this brontosaurus. So what happens, and then I think the most disappointing thing was that in the end the story ends pretty vaguely, where you get this suggestion, of these aliens here always throughout the story, and you're finding these dinosaurs. You have a crazy guy who's supposedly been on the alien ship telling them that, oh, the aliens have been preserving these animals all this time. And then that's confirmed at the end here, where this colleague of hers comes back and he's got different colored eyes than before. And so she realizes that he is not the guy. And these aliens are also like have a parasitic component where they can get inside of a creature and control it. I think that's the alien itself. I'm not sure. It might be something else they've kept around from the olden days. But here he basically explains to her that the aliens are here preserving all this life on Earth for the day when humans quit fucking around, I guess, and then they can bring back all the dinosaurs that were lost. And he goes into this thing about, the danger of humans. Like, we're not particularly worried about you, but you could burn down your planet or maybe the universe. And, your people are not reasonable. And so they give kind of this little, I don't know, like scolding of humanity that humanity deserves. And then the alien just kind of takes off, and that's the end of the story. It didn't really feel like a conclusion. I know there's a second series that follows this up called Nambia, and I don't know if it's going to continue on past that. I haven't read it yet. I do have it on my shelf. So maybe that continues on, like whatever this larger picture with the aliens is. But it felt like, yeah, it's an ending, but also not like a complete ending. It's like an ending of this particular sub-series, maybe, but it feels like there's a bigger picture building here. So it's fun. It's cool. Like, if you find yourself in a place where you can pick these up used, it's cool. It's a fun European comic, like little sci-fi, grounded sci-fi. Got pretty good art. And the writing, like I said, is like a good summer blockbuster writing. There's some kind of stupid things in it, and there's not as much depth of characterization as I would like. But it's a totally fun, breezy read through. And the world building in it and the vision is really, really interesting, which is what I remember liking about Leo's work. I'm really excited to get into the stuff that he's written that's these sci-fi worlds. I kind of purposely read the other stuff because I know there's a big chunk of like all in one world, and there's these outliers that don't have anything to do with it. So I was reading those first, but I'm definitely looking forward to reading more. It's not something I could give like a hard recommend or anything, but there's nothing in here to really like poo on that much either. So if you find yourself able to grab these cheap, definitely do it. It will be a fun, satisfying read, but I wouldn't go out of my way to you pay extra money to get these or something, especially since the production on it's really nice in terms of the art reprinting, but the books, you can tell, are coming apart. This is done by Sign Book, but it feels like the old NBM stuff. I like the printing on the matte paper. I always like that with the European style. I think that looks right. But I have a feeling that if I open these books up like 2 more times, they're going to fall apart. So they're not the best made books either. So definitely don't go paying anything. If this is something that's out of print, I would try and find it used. But it's a cool little book, and I wanted to share it because I'm going to hopefully be doing more with the other Leo material. Centralia is an awesome, gorgeous comic by rising Dutch star Neil Van Peet. This is his first work. It's a really great sci-fi story. There's a world in the future where the sun has gotten so hot that people can't be on the ground, so they have to run around. There's a lot of conceits that go with that. What is the world that looks like? And I think you can see by the art that Sean's description of this book as like a Moebius for young adults, a YA Moebius, is a really great description of this really gorgeous and like wild, wacky, fun book.
Make sure to like, smash that subscribe button, and ring that bell.